Welcome to ECCSC Live. I'm your host, Tyrone Muhammad, and we have a special guest today, man. Great brother, friend, and he also running for the 7th Congressional District Congress seat. This is Brother Anthony Clark, man. Thank you for coming, man.
Thank you for having me on.
You know, you already know how I feel about this here, and what we represent as formerly incarcerated. For y'all just tuning in, ECCSC, of course, is ex-cons for community and social change. And prison reform is a major issue for us. Prison reentry is a major issue for my organization. Violence prevention, social justice. This brother represents that, and I felt it was only right to have him to come forth to talk to the people about his platform. This is actually your 30 minutes. In between, I'm going to ask you a few questions, but this is actually your time to let the people know why you're the best candidate for Congress.
No, I appreciate that. Real talk.
Up,
and, I want to say again, appreciate you having me on. And, one thing I always say is, I like to believe that real recognizes real, and even before I knew you, I knew you. Because we'd be out in the streets mobilized, and then I would see you and see the way you moved. And I was like, who is this brother? He about that, principle. So I appreciated us being able to get to know each other, and here we are now. But as you shared, I'm running for Congress in the 7th Congressional District. It's an extremely huge district, over 700,000 residents, over 400,000 individuals registered to vote. Primarily black district, because we have extremely large black communities like Austin, East West Garfield Park, Inglewood. But I think we've been talking about this even off the radio, off camera, that how we're losing residents. Particularly black individuals are moving out of the state of Illinois, moving out of the city of Chicago en masse, because there seems to be an extreme lack of opportunity, the pervasive gun violence that exists, high levels of still incarceration where we're disproportionately represented. The climate is an issue. We're disproportionately impacted by pollution, lead in our water, lead in our paint, food deserts exist. And, we said it before, it's an issue when you cross, say you're in the Oak Park community, predominantly white community within the 7th Congressional District. It's a huge issue if you go east into Austin and you see nothing but churches, liquor stores, and loan offices. That's a huge issue. And it's a huge issue if you go west into Maywood and see the same thing. We don't have investment in our community. So what I tell people is by design. Brother, your experience as formerly incarcerated. I have numerous family members, that have been incarcerated throughout their lives. Recidivism rates are extremely high. My brother, Ron Jr., somebody I love to death, fight for him on a daily basis, but I've seen his struggle. And I've seen how when he was incarcerated and I'm young, waiting for my brother to come home, so on and so forth, they weren't invested in rehabilitation.
Not at all.
Because what I tell people is, in my estimation, we say slavery ended on June 19th, 1865, but it never really ended. Oppression shifted. We went from being on a plantation to being in prisons. We're still commodities. So they're not invested in education. They're not invested in holistic approaches to the complete human. They don't see value in individuals like you.
But when you say invested, when you say they aren't, give the people an idea, because when
I say they, I'm saying they includes the entire government. So I'm just not talking about the Republican Party. I'm talking about the establishment Democratic Party. I'm talking about federal and state governments, whether you're talking about it at a national level or locally. Think about what drives the majority of our economy, in a sense, the criminal justice system. From traffic court all the way up to, the war on drugs, which is extremely racist. We are commodities. So I know from personal experience, when my brother entered into incarceration, he was making cents on a dollar producing for the prison institutions.
No doubt about it.
He was producing for them.
We most definitely experienced that.
Producing for them, but not seeing a dime of that money. That money's not being able to go home to his family. He's not able to save that, so when he gets out, he has some type of cushion to help him transition back. They weren't providing him with any type of training to help him. So all he was doing was essentially sitting there as a commodity, similar to slavery. No type of investment. So that's what I'm referring to. And if we look at our leaders that are in current office, our representatives, how can you be over a district like the 7th Congressional that's extremely democratic? So like we're D plus 38.
Yeah.
So that means you have the opportunity to fight.
Yeah.
Even if it's about politics for you, ain't no Republican taking your seat.
That's right.
So how can you sit over a district like this to where the unemployment rate has been 4 to 5 to 6 times the national average? How food deserts have existed, school closures, mental health facility closures, hospital closures. We don't have level 1 trauma centers. So I've lost 12 students to gun violence. My last one, Michael Reese, he laid there for 20 minutes after being shot in the chest on Washington Boulevard because there wasn't a close trauma center to take him to.
When you say level 1, see, people, they may not know what that represents.
Right, so,
right,
again, no, that's great, and I'm glad you asked. So again, I'm not a doctor, you know, but there's levels in the sense of trauma. So level 1 is extreme trauma. We're talking gun violence. We're talking near-death experience, stab wounds, where you need to go and immediately receive care, and we don't have these centers in our communities, you know. So the divestment is real, and we need change. So we need a person in office, a person that represents, that's boots to the ground with somebody like you.
Yes, sir.
That sees what you're bringing to the table, what your organization is bringing to the table, and build those coalitions.
See, that's interesting. And as much as we're out here, and our name travel, the bad stuff always won't show up. Oh, they bust the window. He did this or he said that.
Right.
But they don't see the lives we saved. They don't see the number of formerly incarcerated guys that's out here hitting the ground. Exactly. I mean, I know a number of them that has changed their lives and are personally responsible for guys reducing violence and saving lives out there. So as a candidate or a congressman, it's like, wouldn't it be wise if you got a bill called Second Chance Act and all these different bills that they taunt to? I don't know if it's just for show or do they actually believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't it be wise to link up with people who actually serve time to say, hey, sit at the table with me and help me craft the bill that can serve those ones coming home and the ones that before they even go in.
Exactly. No, I mean, I believe
that's not happening. I haven't seen it.
Because for me personally, I have not been incarcerated. So what do I look like crafting a bill or talking or speaking for those who have been incarcerated? I care. I'm an ally. I'm standing here. But you are completely right. You need to be at the table. Other individuals invested, leading organizations like yours that are trying to make a difference, that have that personal experience, need to be at the table. Because what I see too often is, with the Second Chance Act, if we want to use that as an example, when the funding from the government gets to the Second Chance, I mean, it's like any type of nonprofit or organization that exists. The last individual to get the money is the individual that needs the most help. Everybody else getting paid. The money comes in, the grant, so on and so forth comes in, whether it's federal or local. Everybody getting paid. It's a payroll. It's this and that. We got to scratch this back. We got to scratch this back. So then when you get to the brother or sister that was incarcerated, what's left? What's left? Here go a piece of paper. Here, we're going to help you find a job. So that's garbage. And that's why recidivism rates are so high. We need individuals at the table that recognize and understand the help and support needs to go directly to the individual. And we also need to craft programs to where we're not just here for a second chance. We're not reacting. Let's make sure they have their first.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
see, they have all type of rules. They even have rules to prevent brothers. We know that schools are pipelines to prison.
School to prison pipeline, no question.
And I learned how to be the best gangbanger while going to school. Because that's the time you're away from your parents, where you spend the most time encircled in isolation with your peers. Even if it's just the corner of two students in y'all building, and you bullying and you doing all the little things that goes on in school. And what I'm saying is that they prevent persons and people like myself from coming into the school to be an example. I mean, all type of laws and policies are passed. You would think we would be the best example of what not to do to assist you, and you also a teacher.
Right.
Can you talk about that a little bit and how that informs your decision, even as...
Definitely, because we just talked. I'm actually going to bring you to my school. I want you to talk to my students, but you see that the school-to-prison pipeline is real, because what happens is...
And now, hold on real quick. Keep that point. I commend you, bro, because we don't have enough strong black men, males, and that teaching that brothers can look up to.
Only 2% of the teaching force.
School-to-prison pipeline.
School-to-prison pipeline is real. And what I challenge black families in particular to understand, similar to my family, we often scrape together money. We try to, hopefully we can end up staying in our communities. But we try sometimes to move out of the community, or we find a school that we feel our child is safe. And we work so hard. I get it and understand. You think once you get there, your work is done. but it's not, because we have an educational system that's racist.
Yeah.
When you look at the curriculum and what's presented to our youth, they're not presenting to build black empowerment, to build black pride. They are presenting to tell them that slavery wasn't as bad as you thought it was.
Right.
You know, they are presenting to tell them that it's okay for you to be dependent
So
on the
isn't
government.
it actual new? Are they trying to push some new legislation that watered down slavery?
Right. So what happened was in Illinois, they did pass legislation. Leticia Wallace, former state rep, so on and so forth, where it's mandatory that you teach African American history within schools. But the issue for me oftentimes is, as a black teacher, if you're putting an African American curriculum in front of a white teacher, and I'm not saying white teachers are bad, salute to all teachers, I support you all, but if they're not steeped and understand the importance of black empowerment, if they're not steeped and understand the importance of building relationships with students, and like you say, if the student doesn't see themselves, if they can't relate, how can a white teacher truly teach black history?
Yes, sir.
Because we didn't start as slaves and we're not going to end as them, but that's one of the issues that exist. We have a disconnect. And with the disciplinary system, similar to the prisons, that's where it starts, early as pre-K, where we're having 4, 5, 6-year-olds placed in handcuffs. We're having 4, 5, 6-year-olds, their interactions aren't with social workers, therapists, or teachers, it's with police resource officers. So where they're arrested or where they're suspended, sent to detention, placed in rooms with no windows. This is all training. This is all indoctrination into understanding that one day you're going to be a commodity. And there are already commodities within the educational system.
Right.
Because you get money.
No question.
Depending on how many students you have. So It's a huge issue, and we have too many teachers that don't have the classroom management skills or the investment in their students, similar to police officers in the streets. It's often a us versus them mentality,
Yes, sir.
to where they're not trying to build relationships.
Yeah.
And they don't often understand that, I'm not trying to overgeneralize, but how you and I are. Someone else, as black folk, we could be, we like to, we
no
could be aggressive sometimes. In a
Our
good way.
culture,
Right.
our culture kind of informs how we move, how we act,
And that's
how we react.
That's natural for
That's
us.
natural.
So when I'm talking to a black student, and we chopping it up, shaking up, or going back and forth, that's normal for me. That's not threatening. But I see it too often. Not all teachers, but then there's white teachers that see that, oh, they're aggressive. Oh, I don't feel safe. Let me call security. Let me call the school resource officer.
You've actually witnessed that as a teacher with other teachers.
Oh, yeah.
The child was aggressive to you.
Instead of the teacher looking at themselves in the mirror and recognizing that they may be the problem,
Right.
it's always the child.
No
It's
question.
always children with our skin tone and skin color, and then they get pushed within the disciplinary system. Get ready for prison. So, it's huge. And I'm going to finish with this as well. I've literally seen, I'm going to shout out a brother, friend of mine, Omar Yamini. He wrote a book. He was incarcerated. Because this brother was incarcerated for 15 years.
Before.
Wrote a book, wrote a curriculum, entered into our district, was teaching the students. We had a black administrator, Shayla Hollins. She's moved on, great woman. She brought him in. But once she left, who do you think the first brother was they got out of that school? Omar. Oh, he's too dangerous. We don't like the message that he's sending.
She was his protection.
Exactly. We feel uncomfortable with him speaking to our students. So it's systemic. It's a huge issue. And again, I'm always going to go back to it's by design.
And I can say it's the same way with the police force.
Right. No question.
As the true examples in our neighborhood. And on that note, just dealing with the congressman's seat, the power that they wield. What, from your understanding, what would you be able to do to help curb a lot of the stuff, the systemic issues that our communities are dealing with? What would you think immediately? What would be like your immediate policy or goal to combat some of this stuff?
Definitely, and I feel like that's a great question. And I feel like first and foremost, considering the systemic divestment that has existed in our communities, before we could push any policy, we have to build true coalitions within our community. We have to invest in education, educating our community, because the current congressman, he's benefited from low voter turnout. He's benefited from our communities being scattered and divested and extremely violent, because no one's entering into these communities. They can simply show up when it's time to vote, put a sign down, go to a church, write a check, and then they're back in office, particularly with the older voters. But when I get into office, It's bringing you.
Yes,
It's
sir.
bringing other individuals. Let's build this coalition.
Yes, sir.
Let's use this influence to be in our community on a daily basis. Not when it's a Thanksgiving and we bringing some turkeys. No, every day. Every day. And using those federal dollars, bringing them into our community, using those state dollars, working with state reps, the automatic representatives, so on and so forth, to truly invest in educating our people, those next voters, those younger individuals who the next generation are going to lead our communities, because we see it. The money doesn't stay in our community. Even the businesses that we have are not owned by black folk.
No doubt about it.
Not owned. So where are our small business loans? Where are the insurances that we're first in line?
Does the congressman have the bully pulpit to make to encourage banks, provoke
encourage? No question.
Financial institutions?
No question. Anybody has the ability to be boots to the ground and use their influence, and I don't think we see that with our representatives. I can't sit up here and lie and say I'm gonna get in and trillions of dollars gonna come. That's not gonna happen. But what can happen is, again, bringing the people together, forcing individuals throughout our society, throughout our communities, to step in line and place black individuals first. You know, we talk about reparations often. Placing our communities first that we're losing and invest in them. You know, look at our school systems. Look at our mental health facilities. Look at our infrastructure. Make sure that we have grocery stores in our communities so we don't have to go outside of the community and take our money outside. Ensure that we feel safe in our community so we can stay and kick it. You know, sit back and have some fun.
I mean, when I listen to you, and it's not the first time I've listened to you, even when you don't see me listening. But bro, I just want to say, and then the people watching us out there, it's like, you know, at what point, you know, do we pass the torch, right? At what point do we encourage and elevate our youth, our young men and women to positions of authority? Do we hold posts and positions perpetually until we die in those posts, and then we lose it to others outside our community? People have asked me, man, you need to run for Congress. I say this: I'm on the ground. I like being on the ground. I like being an agitator. I like being a conflictist. I like that. I enjoy that. That's my role. That's my way. But if I'm gonna run or have an opportunity to run, I'm more than happy to see a brother like you out there and with us standing with you and pushing that mantle, man. You listen, people. At some point, we have to recognize that. This is a new day. This is a new time, and our communities are in need. And then, bro, what do you see yourself? Do you see the fight? Where's the fight? How do you see your constituents moving, and what do you need to mobilize? That's why I want to ask you so we can hear you. Where do you need to mobilize, and where do you need the help?
That's huge. And you know, I'm just keep it funky. Like I like to say,
please.
I just gotta tell the truth. When you look at politically in the process, you know, too often they want to, like you state, they're threatened by younger leadership. They're threatened by new ideas, because then that threatens their power and their post. They like to sit back, count on votes, and continue to, you know, get rich themselves while the community struggle. But what happens is, because of the interconnected issues that exist, you know, school closures, no job opportunities, low property value, it's all interrelated. So then you have communities that, I don't blame individuals for trying to struggle and take care of their families, but you have communities that, say for example, if I wasn't running, I've seen other people run, and they're afraid to go into Austin. They're afraid to go into East West Garfield Park. And there's such huge communities. It's a lot. It's a daunting task. So what we're doing is, we're not afraid to go into these communities, but I'm reaching out to people, and what I'm telling them, similar to you. I don't know everything. I haven't been everywhere. So I want to build relationships with any and everyone possible that's similarly invested. If you in East Garfield Park right now and you say, I never seen this brother before, then see me. I'm going to come. Invite me out. It's not because I don't want to be there. It's just because we only have so much time, so much ability. If you in Inglewood, invite me. I'm gonna be there. We're gonna bring our team, and we're not coming there trying to leave.
I'm that witness that
we're not gonna come there and try to leave. We're gonna come there and sit back and listen. What do you need? What are you already doing? How can we magnify and support the work? Because people care about their communities.
Yes.
People are fighting. We're not trying to lead. We're not trying to take credit. We want to come in, magnify, and support. So that's the biggest challenge, and I challenge people to do, to go outside of the comfort of a name. Like, oh, we known this person for 20 years. They got name recognition. Oh, he gave me a plate of catfish back in 1982. What is that doing for our people? How is that leading to collective empowerment? You can have a nice person, but they still not for the people.
But our communities reflect our politicians. I always say pastors and politicians. PPs. They pee on the people's head, and I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to continue to say it. You keep peeing on the people's head. Pastors and politicians, at some point, we as people, we as citizens, we as community leaders, we as stakeholders have to get tired of getting peed on. No. We really do, man. And when you have this is a breath of fresh air, man. See, you got to be a hater to not recognize that, man. It's time for a change, and you stuck in your ways, and it's time to give your son, your daughters, an opportunity to lead. They the future. At some point, you got to move out the way and allow us to grow into our potential, or else it's just asinine and disrespectful and hateful. And when to leave your children and your community in a state that they are, while you claim to be the leaders of the people. No, so, with the 2-3 minutes left, I want you to tell the people, just give it to them, look at it in the camera and tell them, man, why are you the best person for the job?
Definitely.
And where they can find you.
Right, no question. I appreciate being here. And what I tell people is, we could have either meet our community and our party where they are, or have the courage to fight to take our community and the party where it needs to be. Either maintain status quo or fight for revolution. I grew up, my father exposed me to Chairman Fred Hampton, exposed me to the Black Panther Party and other forms of revolutionaries. And that's what we truly believe in, and that's what we're bringing to the table. We're giving everything that we have for change. It is no longer acceptable to be too poor to live. It is no longer acceptable for your child to leave their home and you're not going to know if they're going to come back at the end of the day. It's no longer acceptable to literally be so excited about tax season because it's going to save us. You feel what I'm saying? Like, this is not normal. This is not normal to wake up on a Monday and look back in your newspaper to see how many people were shot, how many people were murdered. As black folk and as people of color across this district, and as working class people across this district, we are struggling. But as Chairman Fred stated so eloquently, when you dare to struggle, you dare to win. We cannot ignore the struggle. We cannot sit back and accept the struggle, but we embrace it and we move forward. And that's what we're doing. We're talking about health care. We're talking about housing. We're talking about increasing our minimum wage because, let's be honest, even $15 is not enough. We're talking about helping our brothers and sisters that are formerly incarcerated, currently incarcerated, that are still commodities to this justice system, that they put dollars over their heads. And we're talking about our young youth to prevent them from even entering into the penal institutions, the privatization that occurs and a profit they place over. So I'm just challenging people. You may not know me, but get to know me because I want to know each and every one of you. We are fighting for each and every one of you. Brother, we're going to be together. We're going to continue to rock. The website is voteanthonyclark.com. That's without an E, C-L-A-R-K, voteanthonyclark.com. You can follow me on social media. That's Twitter and Instagram, Anthony B. Clark 20. And it's all power to the people. That's what it is.
Well, y'all know what this is. This ECCSC Live. Y'all know our motto is going to take us to save us. I'm Tyrone Muhammad. Please go to the website, support ECCSC.org. Thank you for tuning in. Anthony Clark, look him up.
Appreciate you, brother.